Thanks for tuning in to the Drive On podcast, where we're focused on giving hope and strength to the entire military community. Whether you're a veteran, active duty, guard, reserve, or a family member, this podcast will share inspirational stories and resources that are useful to you. I'm your host, Scott DeLucio, and now let's get on with the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Drive On podcast. Today, my guest is Lexi Casiday. Lexi is a Navy veteran who is currently in the process of collecting poems, artwork, and short stories from post 9/11 OEF and OIF veterans. She and her team plans to put those collections into a book, which will help support combat disabled veterans. So welcome to the show, Lexi. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself and a little bit about your background?
Yeah, thank you for having me on. My name is Lexi Cassidy, and I am a Navy veteran. Like you said, I had a pretty rough transition from the military to civilian life. I was kicked out for smoking pot after 2 years being in the Navy, and I had nowhere to go, so I actually became homeless. I was a drug addict and an alcoholic, and I suffered from post-traumatic stress pretty badly from some things that happened in the Navy and even before the Navy. So I ended up landing in rehab and getting clean and sober and starting college. But my journey had just begun, and I had to deal with the VA and the depression and all the symptoms from post-traumatic stress. So that was about an 8-year journey that took me up and down a lot of hills and valleys. So just dealing with the VA and my own mental health and healing from trauma was a lonely and long road. But I found a lot of people to help me along the way, and a lot of, I call it creative access ways to heal myself. So through art therapy and writing, and later through exercise. So I found CrossFit, and then I found Jiu Jitsu, which is my main tool now for staying healthy. So I'm in my master's program for organizational leadership at Simpson University, and I just want to find a way to help veterans and give back and help other people on their journey through that darkness, that back to healing, I guess.
Well, that's pretty incredible. Talking about, your own journey, not only were you in that dark place that you're trying to help people come out of, you were in those places, but you've come through okay on the other end of that journey, where you've kind of cleaned up, and you've gotten back to school, and you've kind of taken charge of your life. And I think that's something very commendable, that you're able to do something like that. And I know that there's probably other people out there who might even be listening who might have been in a similar situation, whether they got kicked out of the military for whatever issues they were dealing with, or if they just kind of skated by and just were dealing with those issues in on their own, and not really making having any of it get public. It's a hard thing to do, and so you've shown that it is possible to kind of overcome some of those challenges and come through on the other side okay. And not only that, but now you're using some of that as sort of fuel to help out other veterans and continue to serve. So I think that's definitely a very commendable thing that you're doing here. So let's jump into this project that I briefly mentioned earlier, and talk about what you're trying to put together, and where the idea for this came from, and what it's all about.
Yeah, so the reason that I connected with you is that I am publishing a book called Your Call is Very Important to Us. And the title of the book is sort of a dig at the VA system and how when we call and need their help, they tell us that, and then they put us on hold with flute music for hours. So it's just kind of a joke between veterans. But the premise of the book is to sort of take us off hold, the OEF, OIF era veterans. I can't open it to all veterans or it would be sort of too convoluted. But for my era of veterans, just to take us off hold and give us a loudspeaker to speak our stories through art and poetry and short stories. So I'm putting this kind of anthology together in a coffee style book. And the proceeds from the book are going to We Defy Foundation, which gives combat disabled vets scholarships to train Jiu Jitsu for a year. And how that, the reason that I want to give the proceeds to that foundation is that my Jiu Jitsu professor, Alan Shabaro, created the foundation. He started it with Joey Bozak and probably butchered his name, but I train with Professor Shabaro, and he is an outstanding person and just gives back to helping other veterans heal from PTS. And so it's a place that I can raise money for, that I have full integrity, knowing that all the money is going to help vets. And Jiu Jitsu has helped me as a veteran with post-traumatic stress. Uncombat related, but a lot of the symptoms and the healing process is the same no matter where your trauma is from. So I just want other vets to find Jiu Jitsu and to find that healing journey. And then I am an artist and an author. Well, not an author, I'm not published, but I've been using writing for a long time in my healing journey. So I just wanted to sort of also create awareness for veteran authors and veteran artists, and put this book together as kind of all the things that have helped me in my journey. So,
I mean, that's, I think, an excellent way to, help out other people is, through this foundation and, what they're doing. But I'd like to talk a little bit about Jiu-Jitsu specifically. I know you said that it's helped you, and what the process is like through We Defy Foundation, and how they use Jiu-Jitsu to help out the veterans. I know there's a lot of veterans who do train in Jiu-Jitsu, but personally, I haven't. So I guess I'd like to learn a little bit more about what it's all about and what the healing process is like, and what you hope to provide for these veterans through the foundation.
Yeah. So I'm a We Defy ambassador, and that is just a volunteer to, what we do is we have a team of veteran athletes, and we reach out to them once a month and just have a conversation with how their training is going. So that is my kind of place in the volunteer sector there. But if you are, I believe it's 80% or above disabled veteran, you can apply for a Jiu-Jitsu scholarship. And we have, I think it's over 350 gyms throughout the country. So you don't have to live in Texas where I am to have a Jiu-Jitsu scholarship. So you can apply for the scholarship, and they will pay for you to train at a We Defy gym for a year. And they'll send you gis and give you a mentor for the year. And I can't speak to how it's helping other vets. I can just tell my story. But for me, I'm not a We Defy athlete, but I'm a veteran who trains Jiu-Jitsu. And the way that it's helped me is through the last symptom for post-traumatic stress that I can't seem to kick is my anxiety. So I have severe social anxiety, and it's basically helped me kick anxiety's ass. So that has been my biggest thing. And then just having that camaraderie back, having other veterans and civilians that are there on the mats with you to support you and that check on you if you don't come for a while, and that just understand, like, we're all on this journey together. We're all people who can face challenge and overcome it. And just, it helps me to gain confidence. I have a history of domestic violence, And so jujitsu gave me back that confidence and just a feeling of being able to keep myself safe. So that's what it's done for me.
I mean, that's great too, because I think your ability to overcome that hurdle of that one last thing that you seem like you were having trouble with, and using jujitsu to kind of overcome that hurdle, and make you feel safe and kind of comfortable in various situations and surroundings. It I think it just goes to speak to how powerful this can be, and so again, we were talking a little bit before the recording started for this episode, but we're just talking about some of the types of people that we have on the show, and the people who have overcome their own challenges, whatever they may be, is obviously one type of guest that I like to have on the show, but also the people who provide services. And so we defy providing this training service for the veterans who are struggling with one thing or another. I think it's just an incredible way for veterans to overcome things like that social anxiety that you're talking about, and other things too. I'm sure there's even people with more physical disabilities that are able to train and overcome some of the limitations that maybe they thought that they had prior to doing the jujitsu on their own. I think that probably would help them as well. I would imagine.
Yes, there are plenty of adaptive athletes that are doing jiu-jitsu with no limbs, and just overcoming way more difficult challenges than I had to face. So, and just having those people on your team, like looking at them, if they can do this, then I can definitely do this. Like that's such so uplifting and so encouraging.
It is, and when you see people like that who, like you said, are missing limbs, and they're still able to go out there and do all of these things that I look at it, and it's since I've never done it, I look at it as, okay, this looks like a pretty difficult thing to do, and go out there and going against some of these other people who look like they're pretty great in and of themselves, but then you have this person who is missing an arm or a leg or something, and they're going out there and they're getting after it, and it's like, okay, well, if that person can do it, then what's my excuse? you know
What does Jocko say? Your excuses are lies.
yeah, they are. I mean, they really are, and I've used that kind of mindset throughout my time in the military, even before I joined the military. I've talked about this a little bit on the podcast before, but when I first joined the military, it was back in like 2005, and I heard these reports on the news that the military was struggling to meet their recruiting numbers. And I was the type of person who, after 9/11, I was so pissed off at everything that just happened. I was ready to put everything in my life on hold and join the military. I ended up not doing it right then and there, but then in 2005, I said, okay, where are all these people who are supposedly looking out to defend our country and all this stuff? And I said, well, I am those people. I like, that's me. Like that's me to a T, and I still haven't done anything. It's I all I've done is come up with excuses not to do it. And so here I am, and I've still not done anything, so I might as well just do something about it. And so that's when I eventually joined the military. So but yeah, that's exactly it. Your excuses are they're, what's the saying, every excuses are like assholes, everyone's got one and they all stink. so so yeah, I mean, if that's something that seems interesting to someone, or they think it might help them, give it a try. you're not going to lose anything, especially if you fit in this category where you can get a scholarship to train, for a year. Give it a shot and see what happens, right?
Fall in love, become obsessed.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is the people that I talk to who, and maybe this is one of the reasons why I haven't gotten into it, but the people I've talked to who've gotten involved with jujitsu it's almost an obsession, like you said. It's crazy to see it, and when they are so obsessed about something, it's great because they're passionate about it and they're really into it. But then, to me, it's almost like, okay, if I get into this now, I'm going to be obsessed too. And I don't know if I want to, jump down that rabbit hole, but it's good too, to have that passion and have something to look forward to, and have that something in your life like that.
Well, that's really the positive side of addiction. So I hear people say I have an addictive personality, or I don't know if it's a personality trait, but it is definitely part of who I am. So whatever I'm into, I'm addicted to. So that has kind of given me a positive way to replace my drugs and alcohol, because you can't just get rid of something that you need every day and then you just have this void. You have to fill it with something. So finding something positive to be addicted to, I don't think is such a bad thing.
Oh, and it's not, when you have something that is good for you physically, some sort of exercise, or you're actually learning a skill too while you're doing this. Not only just is it a physical exercise kind of thing, but you're also learning, the some of the techniques and things like that, which have practical applications too, outside of just training, and so I think overall it's a good thing. And if you get obsessed with, fitness and health, whether it's jujitsu or running or, some other, thing that you get into, uh, I think that's just going to be a good thing overall for you, and it could help replace those other things that are not so healthy for you. And, eventually, you might replace those altogether. And that's a good thing in my book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going back to this book that you're working on, and I love the title, by the way. Your call is very important to us. I think it's incredibly creative, and I don't know if you saw it, but I was definitely smiling when you first mentioned that, because that's exactly what you hear, on the other end sometimes when you're calling for an appointment or whatever. But back to the book, you're looking for submissions from OEF, OIF veterans, so Afghanistan, Iraq, era veterans. What type of things are you hoping to get from people who are submitting into this book?
So if you are an artist, you can send me any of your artwork. It doesn't have to be related to the military. I just want you to be an OEF era veteran, and that's really the only parameters for that. So it doesn't have to be something that you are creating specifically for the book, but it can be as well. I've gotten, most of the artwork that I've gotten has been geared towards military things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to fit into that box. And also, if you are an artist or a veteran author, I am trying to raise awareness to get your books sold, or to get you hired for commission pieces. So I'm getting a website together with links to wherever I can send people to buy your books or buy your art. So it's also creating awareness for just the talent that is out there, that veteran artists have had a hard time making a living. So I want them to be able to get their names out there and get their amazing talent known. And if you are an author, I've had a lot of authors send me poetry. Most of it has been war poetry, but it doesn't have to be. just if you send me a submission, it's going in my book unless it will get you arrested or I have to report you for it. So just that's really the only thing you need to be careful for. And then if you're not a poet or an author or an artist, but you have a story that you want to tell, like we all have a story, even if we just made it through boot camp, I know you have a funny story to share. So write it down, get it to me. And if you are not, a lot of people have been telling me I'm not a good writer. Or my story isn't important enough, or I didn't deploy. Those are all excuses, and I still want your story in my book. So just get something down for me, like start going through your memories of what made you laugh while you were in the military. And I guarantee somebody else is going to laugh too if they read that in the book. And then you don't have to have had a deployment to be in the book. I want to cover all aspects of military service. So that includes POGs and people who never deployed. And if you served, then your story is important enough to be in the book.
I love that message too, that if you served, your message is important. And not just important enough to be in the book, but important just in general. It's an important thing. And I like to make sure that people recognize that, even the people who haven't deployed. I've talked to several people who haven't deployed anywhere, and they say that, oh well, I haven't deployed, so I don't even really consider myself a veteran because I haven't seen combat or whatever. But you still raise your right hand, you still sign the papers, and you still served your country, and you did what your country asked of you. And I think that that's something very honorable in and of itself. And so you should be proud of that. And there are things that you did, even if it's just in training, basic training or whatever, that do make good stories. And it's, I think, a very important thing to get those stories out there. When you think back to earlier generations of veterans who maybe served in World War II or even earlier, where publishing was not as readily available as it is now. It wasn't as easy to do. Nobody really had the ability to submit everything that they had experienced to a publisher, and now you have self-publishing options available, and so like anybody could do it. And I think that these stories are important to be told. Is it going to be a overnight bestseller, New York Times bestseller list? I don't know, but it's still important to have those stories out there. And when you look at those stories as a whole, which I think kind of is the nice thing about your book, is you're going to have a whole series of collections of short stories and things like that, where you'll get to see a wide variety of different work coming from different veterans in different perspectives, and some who have deployed, some who haven't, and it's going to be a nice thing to have all of that together in one place, so we can kind of get a better big picture view of what was going on during this time period in our country, and for the veterans who served during that time period.
Yeah, and I really want to kind of tell the stories of people that may have not had a seat at the table in history in the military. So women who are going to combat now, minority people in high ranks, the gay community, all these people that kind of, their stories have been hidden throughout history, but they are such an important part of the military story. I would really like those veterans to come out and share their stories. And so I'm looking for those demographics as well. So I want this to be an all-inclusive book and everyone to have a seat at the table. And so not just like what we think about when we turn on a war movie, our favorite hero, but people that may be more in the shadows or more thinking, well, I didn't do much. But if you were the first African American woman to go to combat. You are very important, and your story needs to be told.
Yeah, there are definitely some trails that got blazed along the way throughout, our country's history, and the different people who have, blazed those trails. I think that their stories are especially interesting to hear, I really hope that this story, or these stories, I should say, get out there to a wide audience, and I really do hope that people will be encouraged to submit their stories uh, to you to get them included in this, and even artwork and things like that, because artwork can tell a story as well. You mentioned before that some people maybe are not the best writers, and um, I'll just say I think some of my English teachers from high school are probably pretty shocked that I wrote a book. So if I could do it, so could you. So let's put it that way. But even if you're not, you might have some other talents, some artistic talents, and you might be able to contribute some artwork as well to the book. And I think that would be great, is to get that included, because that stuff tells a story too.
And it's not just paintings that can be art. So I have a veteran who makes bracelets out of paracord, and he's just sending me a picture of those bracelets, and that is his contribution. So be creative in what you send to me. It doesn't have to just look like a painting. Or I have veterans that do sculpture work. They're sending me submissions of their sculptures. It can really be anything, but however you want to express yourself.
That's excellent too. I actually didn't even think of that, but that's all of that is different forms of artwork, right? The sculptures, and there's probably woodworking and metalwork and other things that people can put together, and all of that. It's another form of expression, and a way of telling a story, and so those are all, I think, great ways of doing that. So that's excellent. Where can people go to submit their writing, or their artwork, or whatever? Should they reach out to you first, or is there a place that they can go to submit this stuff?
So I'm taking all the submissions through my email, and that's alexiscassidy@gmail.com.
Okay.
And I can send you that so they don't have to remember it from here.
Yeah, no, and I'll have a link to that in the show notes as well. So anyone who's interested in submitting it, I'll have that there, so you can reach out to you and get that stuff submitted. But I really do encourage people to think about their story and what they've experienced. Especially if you have any sort of uh, challenges that you're struggling with, mental health related issues, or some physical disabilities, or things like that. There's a story behind all of that, and uh, those stories, I think, need to be told, so that way we can understand better, like, what it was that we really were asking our country's service members to do, when we decided to send them either to war, or have them serve our country in one way or another. What is it that we're actually asking them to do, so that way, if there were mistakes being made, we can hopefully correct those, and not have that happen again. And sometimes it's not a mistake that things happen, but sometimes stuff just sucks, and life happens, and we need to understand what it is, what it means to be in the military, and um, all those stories put together really help paint a bigger picture. So
That reminded me of the story that I love about when things need to change, and that there's a private that is told to guard this bench, and so he's guarding the bench, and then he gets off duty and somebody else guards the bench, and then it just becomes tradition that somebody is always standing guard at this bench, and then eventually somebody the first private that ever was told to guard the bench came back to visit, and he's an old man, and he said, "Why are you still guarding this bench? I was just supposed to stand there until the paint dried."
You know, and it became a tradition. No one knew why. It was just that's the way it's always been done. And so let's
Nobody
just keep
asked.
doing it. Why not? Yeah, no one asked
Don't let
why.
anyone, don't let anyone sit here and guard this bench.
And so if that private had written a story and said, I had to stand there and guard this bench because it was, wet paint on it, they would have known not to continue guarding the bench unless it got painted again.
Yes.
That's funny. But shame on that private for not telling the person who relieved him why he was standing there guarding the bench.
When the paint dries, you can be done.
Yeah, right. That's funny. Yeah, I've heard something like that before, and it's very true. We do that sometimes. We get caught in these traditions, and well, why are you doing that thing? Well, it's the way it's always been done, so I'm doing it this way. And so even simple stuff like that is funny, but also has a lesson attached with it. And so anyone who has stories like that, I'm sure that those could be passed along as well, through this book or even their own writings as well. So I think this is a great resource. I think it's a great way for people who maybe don't feel like they have an entire book in them, but they might have a short story about something interesting that happened to them. A great way for them to be able to share their story, and I really applaud your efforts, because I know as an author myself that writing a book is not an easy feat, and I applaud you for putting this together and getting these stories and these submissions assembled and put together. And I think the end result's going to be absolutely wonderful, and we'll have to have you back on the show when the book is available, and we can talk about that, and hopefully get more eyes on it and get more people buying the book when it does come out. So it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and chat about this. Again, your email address will be in the show notes, and that's where you want submissions to go through. So I'll put that there. And anything else that you wanted to add before we wrap this one up?
I just want to say that if somebody is listening and they are in that dark place that they feel like I can't ever get out of this hole and there's nothing left for me, so through that 8-year journey between getting clean and sober and being a mentally healthy person again, I spent a lot of time in depression, and I've tried to kill myself 3 times, been hospitalized twice, relapsed at least 5 times, and just been in a place that I didn't want to live anymore. So the things that got me out of it would take a lot more time to tell, but I am so glad that I lived through those times and that I kept going, and that I didn't take my life on the days that I didn't want to live anymore. And there were a lot of years sometimes. It's not just like you have to endure this for one day and then you can do anything, kind of cliches, just hold on there, that little kitten on the poster. Like, those things don't help. Like, there are going to be really, really hard years and painful years and really crappy years. And they can stretch out into, mine was an 8-year time frame. But just the fact that I kept climbing and went and got help when I needed it, because there were times that I wouldn't have been able to live through the night if I didn't go to the hospital. And that's just very real. I wouldn't be here right now. And I'm just glad that I am, because today I have my own apartment. I have my dog and my cat. I'm on my way to my master's degree. I feel happy waking up in the morning and having my coffee, and I feel happy going to bed at night, and I feel excited to have adventures ahead of me and a purpose and a team through Jiu Jitsu. And I look forward to being able to go and exercise at the gym. Like, these are things that maybe people take for granted that are not going through mental health troubles. And I don't take them for granted because there's been days that I couldn't even get out of bed. So if all you can do today is sit up and get out of bed and take off your pajamas and take a shower, Guy, I'm so proud of you. And tomorrow, maybe you can do one more thing than that. So don't think that you need to write a book or start jujitsu or anything for your mental health to get back on track. Just pick one thing today that you can do. It doesn't have to be huge, and somebody else is going to see your story one day and they're going to want to survive because you did. And so that's what I would like to add.
That is incredibly powerful, what you said there, and I really do hope that people who are listening take that to heart and realize that, sometimes things are going to be a struggle, but life is worth living, and keep on working at it because it is definitely worthwhile. So thank you again for sharing that and sharing everything that you're doing now. I think this is going to help out a lot of people, not just monetarily through the book and helping out the foundation, but I think getting these stories out there and sharing little bits of inspiration the way you just did will really help out people as well. So thank you again, and thanks for joining me on this show.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Drive On Podcast. If you want to check out more episodes or learn more about the show, you can visit our website, driveonpodcast.com. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Drive On Podcast.